If they could see me now, that little gang of mine, I'm eating fancy chow and drinking fancy wine. I'd like those stumble bums to see for a fact the kind of top drawer first rate chums I attract. All I can say is wow, we look at where I am. Tonight I landed pow right in a pot of jam. What a setup, holy cow. They'd never believe it if my friends could see me now. If they could see me now, my little dusty group traipsing round this $1 million chicken coop. I'd hear those thrift shop cats say, brother, get her draped on a bedspread made from 3 kinds of fur. All I can say is wow, wait till the riff and raff, see just exactly how he signed his autograph. What a build-up, holy cow. They'd never believe it if my friends could see me now. If they could see me now, alone with Mr. V, who's waiting on me like he was a maitre d', I'd hear my buddies saying, crazy what gives, tonight she's living like the other half live. To think the highest brow, which I must say is he, should pick the lowest brow, which there's no doubt is me. What a setup, holy cow. They'd never believe it if my friends could see me now.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please join us in thanking Tom Atwood and Evelyn Hoskins. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Good evening. My name is Stephanie Sarah. I'm the Chief Executive of Nottingham Playhouse. We're really delighted to welcome you all here tonight. It's a very exciting evening for many reasons. Firstly, as you may not know, that 2018 is the 70th anniversary of Nottingham Playhouse, so that's quite a big deal and something to celebrate. Secondly, we're bidding to be European Capital of Culture. Nottingham is bidding to be European Capital of Culture. And this is such a tremendous opportunity for the city to really shout about how fantastic it is. So if you haven't pledged your support to that bid, please make sure you do, because it's well worth it. And thirdly, and the bit we're here for, is this is the first season from our new Artistic Director, Adam Penford. So I'd be hugely grateful if you put your hands together and welcome the BBC's Mark Dennison and new Artistic Director of Nottingham Playhouse, Adam Penford.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening. Adam and I are like the new Anton Deck. This is...
Thanks.
I've just come out of rehab. So there we are. Welcome along to you. Welcome to Adam as well. It's your first year, isn't it? Artistic Director.
It's my first year, yeah. I officially started last Monday.
So you're putting this programme together. How did you actually manage to do it?
So... I suppose most people probably know I come from Nottingham. I was brought up in Mapley. And I've been away for 18 years, but the Nottingham Playhouse was my introduction to theatre, so I used to sit in the auditorium as a kid and come and watch pantomime. And then when I was a teenager, I came to watch everything. So I saw a wide variety of work, and that was really my theatrical education. So when I was putting together the season for next year, I wanted it to be an eclectic mix, so there would be something for everybody. I wanted it to be entertaining and fun and challenging, and to reflect the community that we're here to serve, and high-quality drama that would bring a high profile to the organisation, both within the city and nationally as well. So that's sort of, it's taken a year of planning to put the year together.
Enjoyable year, or is it a lot of pressure?
No, enjoyable. I mean, it's the dream job, it really is. You know, this was my theatre as a child, and I've always wanted to be an artistic director, so it feels like coming home.
Okay. Well, without further ado, we're going to guide you through some highlights for the new season here at Nottingham Playhouse. And someone else with strong local connections, someone that was born in Nottingham, part of the invitation group for emerging writers at the Royal Court. She's flown back specially to be with you tonight. Would you please welcome Beth Steele? Welcome along to the sofa of dreams, Beth.
At last.
Thank you for coming along tonight. Firstly, we're talking about Wonderland. You can book for this Friday the 9th to Saturday 24th of February next year. What inspired you to write Wonderland?
Well, the extraordinary setting of the mine, this sort of strange underground world, felt theatrically exciting to bring to the stage. The politics and the conflicts at the heart of the miners' strike felt contemporary, actually, felt resonant still today.
Right. There's a little picture behind, just to give you a bit more of a flavour about the production itself. Your dad was a miner, wasn't he?
He was. He actually retired in the very week that this play opened in London, so
right.
He did the full stretch.
What did he think of the play?
He loved it. I think he was more nervous than me, actually. But he loved it.
Right.
Yeah.
How much help was he with the research?
He was hugely helpful. I mean, you know, a large part of the play is underground, and so therefore capturing that camaraderie amongst the men, capturing what actually this working life entails, he was, you know, his input was enormous. I also went underground twice with him for several hours and his work team, so that was very vivid in my head. We actually never spoke about the strike at all, and that was also very helpful because it meant freedom. It meant that I was forming my own thoughts about it.
Okay. Adam, why did you choose Wonderland for your first production of 2018 season?
Yeah, so when you start planning a year's programme, the first thing you start to think about is what is going to be the opening show. And I arrived very quickly at Wonderland. So Beth touched on the fact that it premiered in London 2 years ago. And I read the script shortly afterwards and was kind of blown away by it. And always thought that Nottingham Playhouse should produce the regional premiere of the play. It's set, we've not really touched on what it's about. It's set for the whole miners' strike in North Notts. What I think Beth's done brilliantly in the play is she tells the domestic story of the strike. So it starts with two 16-year-olds on their first day going down the pit, learning their craft, meeting their workmates, people who have worked underground for decades. And that's really moving. And then it goes through the domestic story, so you learn about the impact on the miners, on their families, on those communities who were decimated by the strikes. But what you do brilliantly is also alongside that tell the politics and the economics of that story, which without it being dry or feeling overly educational, it feels inherently dramatic and entertaining. I also love the fact you capture the witty banter of the men underground brilliantly, which I guess must have come from your dad, did it?
I get men's banter pretty well without him, thanks. Every single miner I met was like, oh, but you're a girl, you won't be able to capture the banter. No.
You knew it.
Yeah.
I did.
Okay, putting you on the spot now, Beth. You've got 30 seconds. Sell the production. Why should these good people come and see it?
Because this event changed this city, our city. And so it's a story about who we were and who we are now. And in terms of if you want to come and see a play that's visually theatrical and emotional and political and funny, then this is the play for you.
Hey, 30 seconds, bang on. Very good.
That was impressive.
All right, Adam, without any repetition or saying, oh, no,
That's unfair, isn't it?
Why do I get to go second?
Unfair.
She said it already.
You should come and see the play because it's entertaining, it's hilarious, it's heart-wrenching. It's a local story by a local writer. I'm really proud of the fact that I think female writers are still underrepresented in theatre in general, so I'm really proud that we're starting with a female writer, one of 3 within the season. The other thing I love about it is how theatrical the play is. So there's songs, there's music, there's heightened movement sequences because you've written some stage directions where as a director you go, how am I possibly going to stage this huge riot in the theatre? Whereas if on cinema you do it with 300 extras and horses and a £1 million budget. But that demands as a director that you are inventive and innovative and creative, hopefully.
Very
30
good.
seconds?
Yeah, that will do. That will do. I wasn't even watching. It's Wonderland, and please show your appreciation to Beth and Adam. Adam will be back later, but Beth, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, would you please give a warm welcome to the Associate Director of Nottingham Playhouse and someone who's directing Our Country's Good. Please welcome Fiona Buffini. Okay, now then. Our Country's Good, extraordinary true story. It's about a group of convicts and soldiers setting up the first colony in Australia. Give us more of a flavour of the production.
The story is extraordinary. We have a group of officers and a group of convicts. 700 convicts left England in 1788, and they were the first European settlers in Australia. When they arrived in Australia, they didn't know whether they would survive. They were pickpockets, burglars, robbers, and soldiers. They weren't farmers or builders. And the supplies started to run out and run low. And the most extraordinary thing is, and this is a true story, that what they did was stage a play. They staged a production of The Recruiting Officer, which is a restoration comedy. And the play that I'm doing, Our Country's Good, is about that. It's about this production that takes place and how it transforms everybody that's involved in it.
Could you explain a little bit about what Ramps on the Moon is?
Yes, Ramps on the Moon. This will be the 3rd Ramps on the Moon production. And I'm very excited about directing this. Ramps on the Moon is a consortium of 6 regional theatres and Grey Eye Theatre. And every year, one of the partners produces a large-scale production with a cast of at least 50% deaf and disabled actors. What I've said to the casting director is I need really, really good actors for this show, and that's what we're looking for. The idea behind the consortium is that we raise the profile of deaf and disabled artists, audiences, and also change the way we think, I think, about disabled people and access to the arts.
Why did you choose Our Country's Good for the Ramps project?
Firstly, it is a wonderful play. It's really, really good. Audiences love to see backstage and what happens backstage. And there's a great deal of comedy to be had in the play about the rehearsals going wrong, the leading lady's going to be hanged, people are escaping, the officers are opposed to it. So there's a big struggle in the play and a lot of comedy. But I think what the play is about makes it perfect for a Ramps on the Moon production. It's about the way we see each other. The officers, to begin with, are very dismissive of the convicts and believe they're little better than animals. And they have a great idea about themselves. One of the characters says, I don't sin, I'm an officer. So they have those people boxed, and they will only be convicts. That's what they are. And what the play shows us is how you can escape from those boxes, and what you need to be able to do that. So people start to see other people differently, and people in the play start to see themselves differently. And I think that's why this play is really relevant to today. I think we very easily look at groups of people in a certain way, and kind of pin them down and say, well, that's all they can do. But I know through my work in the participation department that that's not true. If people are given a chance, and they can do anything, really. A chance and opportunities, I think.
Now, I gave Beth 30 seconds. I think I'll do something different with you. 30 minutes. No. Use 3 words that you hope audiences will take from Our Country's Good.
Joy, transformation, hope.
Okay, that will do. Powerful stuff.
Great.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Fiona Buffini.
Thank you.
And that production is here at the Playhouse from Friday the 9th to Saturday the 24th of March 2018. Now, Adam is going to come back, Adam Penford, and he'll be joined by David Belbin. Good evening. Holes. Adam, what is Holes about?
Holes is our family show for the year. It's an American novel. It's about a boy called Stanley Yelnats, whose first name is his surname spelled backwards. He's 15, he's in Texas, and he gets falsely accused of stealing a pair of sneakers, these old, smelly trainers. Turns out they belong to the most famous basketball player on earth, and they were being auctioned for charity. He goes to court, and he gets given a choice by the judge. Either he can go to a juvenile detention centre, or he can go to Camp Green Lake. So he has a chat with his parents, and they say, well, we've never been able to afford to send you to camp like most American kids do in the summer. So they opt for Camp Green Lake, and when we get there, he realises there is no lake, and it isn't green. It's a desert, and the boys are forced to dig a hole every day in the ground, 5 foot deep, 5 foot in diameter, as deep and as wide as their shovel, to build character. Anyway, it turns out that the warden who runs the camp is actually looking for something, and then the story turns into this really gripping adventure novel. So it's a story of friendship and redemption.
Okay. I know in your blog you've already announced that you plan more family shows as part of your tenure. What's the reason behind starting with Holes?
Yeah. I've already touched on the fact that as a kid, I came to Nottingham Playhouse. It introduced me to theatre. And we used to come as a family to see Christmas shows, the pantomime. But I think and they were really amazing trips, actually, as a family. But I don't see why those trips should be confined to Christmas. So it felt important to me to do a family show every year. And I chose Holes because actually it's not just for children, it's also for adults. So it's an award-winning novel. Disney made a movie of it, starring Sigourney Weaver. I see adults reading it on the train sometimes, actually. I'm yet to meet somebody who doesn't like it. So I thought that would be a good one to start off with, rather than a slightly more obvious traditional novel that perhaps gets adapted for theatre more often. The novelist himself has adapted it. And it's hard-hitting. That's the other thing I like about the fact. It does explore poverty and race, but ultimately it's a feel-good drama.
Okay. Should we do the big news about the casting now, or should we have a chat with David first?
Yeah, go on.
Keep them waiting. Keep them hanging on. Yeah. All right, David, just in case you don't know, David here is a novelist based in Nottingham, teaches creative writing, Nottingham Trent, and David led Nottingham's successful bid to become a UNESCO City of Literature as well. How important is that, by the way, to have that in Nottingham?
I think it's a fantastic thing for Nottingham to have the UNESCO City of Literature status. And we're doing all sorts of exciting things. We've had our director, Sandy Mahal. She's been in post for a year now. She was meant to be here now, but she's very sick, so I'm a last-minute stand-in. I'm sorry, she's much nicer to look at than I am. But she's been doing an absolutely fantastic job and really energising people all over the city with things to do with literature and building upon, what got us the City of Literature status was the enormous amount of literary activity happening now in Nottingham, not all the stuff in the past great as Byron and Silito and the rest of it, but all the stuff that's happening now, including what I'll hopefully be talking about in a minute, the new writing at the Playhouse. And I don't think that without getting this status successfully, we'd be launching the bid to be a European Capital of Culture in 2023, for instance, which is using a similar kind of partnership to the one that we created to bid to become a UNESCO City of Literature.
Yeah. Let's just stay on that theme, actually, because obviously we've had Kite Runner, Pride and Prejudice, as you can see on stage here. How important is it for us, status as City of Literature, that the Playhouse programmes these literary adaptations?
I've been a board member at the Playhouse for 5 years, and I was a bit sceptical, to be honest, about the number of books that we do. It's almost like it's a necessary evil for theatres to do books because it puts bums on seats because of the familiarity element, and it's a good way of getting people into theatre. But the more I've seen about what's been going on here, and I hope we'll talk about new writing in a minute, but it really is about what you do with them. And I can't wait to see what Adam does with Holes, which I read when it came out. And I think Louis Sachar, as you were saying, is just a really, really good novelist who, the fact that his primary audience, it seems to be getting younger, but it started out as being aimed at sort of 14-year-olds, but 40-year-olds can read him just as well, and he tends to be read a bit younger now. And Holes is an amazing book. It actually reminded me of one of my favourite American writers, Richard Brautigan, and a bit of Paul Auster about it too. So, it is hard-hitting, and it is something that, if it's done well, could be incredibly exciting. I'm sure it will be. But, you just have to look at some of the innovative kind of adaptations that we've had on at the Playhouse over the last 3 years. Obviously, starting with the Kite Runner, which we've had to have 3 iterations of, which has been an enormous success, and it's going to be touring in Giles's afterlife, after the Playhouse, until I believe next July. Then you've got, 1984, which was a Playhouse co-production. Again, an exciting and interesting adaptation of the George Orwell novel, which has not only played for ages in London and got fantastic reviews there, but it's now on Broadway with Olivia Wilde starring in it as Julia, and has taken on a life, as a critique of the Trump administration. So adaptations, can be interesting. And of course, the best example of that at the moment is Pride and Prejudice, whose set we're sitting in. And I must confess, I thought, another Pride and Prejudice? I teach this, and there have been so many TV adaptations, but what you get, if you haven't been, is this really entertaining twist on Pride and Prejudice, which has got great songs, it's got a lot of satire, and it's just a lot of fun. And also, it's just a superb introduction to Jane Austen, a way of getting people into Jane Austen who wouldn't go there otherwise, I would think, rather than being designed just to appeal to the kind of heritage mob who might turn out if you do a George Eliot or a Charles Dickens or whatever. So adaptations, not necessarily, original plays, I think, are more important to our status as a city of literature, but adaptations, if they're done well, absolutely fine. And that's been a big part of the Playhouse's offer, and will continue, I think, to be so under Adam.
Okay. Well said. And Pride and Prejudice, by the way, tickets still on sale.
Another week to go.
One more week to go. Back to 2018 and the new season then. And Adam, why do we do this big reveal then? Because we do have some casting news about Holes.
Yeah, hot off the press, literally Friday, actually. The warden role that I was talking about, which is a kind of Cruella de Vil type character, is going to be played by an actress called Casey Ainsworth, who I suppose is best known for playing Little Mo in EastEnders for many years. She's now in Grantchester. I remember catching her in Call the Midwife, and she was brilliant. I actually know her more than her TV work for her amazing theatre work over the years. She's a really accomplished theatre actor. So I'm really looking forward to bringing her to Nottingham next year.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. She is fantastic. Now, Playhouse has a great reputation for commissioning new writing. This is something that David was talking about. Presumably that will continue, Adam, under your stewardship?
Yeah, it absolutely will. While Giles has been artistic director of the Playhouse for the last 18 years, he's produced over 50 new plays, which really is a remarkable achievement, and that will absolutely continue because new writing really is the lifeblood of theatre. It allows us to challenge perceptions and to ask questions and to reflect back the community in which we're operating. So whether that be that we're commissioning writers who already have a high profile, who are from this region, and then hopefully taking their plays out from Nottingham nationally, or whether that's attracting writers with a national profile to write for us. We've got several commissions already underway, which we're not going to announce tonight, but we will in due course, which are very exciting. And we do have one which we're going to announce, which I'm particularly excited about in a moment, I think. One thing that the Neville Studio allows us to do is to program some exciting and risky work. But it also allows us, with this main stage, to help writers to make that step up from writing for a 100-seater studio to a 750-seater main stage. And that's something that we're including in next year's program, which we'll be talking about in a second. So that's really exciting.
Yeah. And David, final word on this to you. We've been talking about, exciting times and how important this kind of work is, these theatre commissions and new writing. Give us a flavour of how important that is.
I think it's incredibly important, and I think that Giles has done a terrific job of this over the last 18 years, and I'm sure Adam's support been praising some of the writers that he's brought on, and particularly, I guess, in the last 5 years, there have been more and more original plays at the Playhouse. I'm thinking of work by people like Andy Barrett and Kefi Chadwick, Michael Eaton, Stephen Lowe, both new plays like Old Big Head and a revival of Touched, and I'm thinking about Amanda Whittington, and of course William Ivory. So there's been some really good plays that have been set in Nottingham quite often as well, so that we have this strong tradition of original plays that explore and celebrate the area, which we might almost take for granted, but actually most places don't get this. Most people don't have the kind of rich writing tradition, which has, as I said, helped us to get this much desired city of literature status, and just to create a buzz around the city and make people feel more confident about becoming writers of all kinds, not just playwrights. And there are. I'm going to be careful not to talk about things that are coming later, but Beth Steele's already been on. I saw a stream of Wonderland when it was on, was it 3 years ago, at the Hampstead Theatre, and it was just a terrific play. It's, why aren't we doing this here? I mean, now we are doing this here. And I know that we've been trying to get her for a while, and that's great that there's work by playwrights like Beth, who's from Mansfield. So, and the other thing I suppose I should say, the other thing that's really changed and made things better for writers here is the Neville Studio. Having the Neville Studio, where you've had things like Nick Wood's The Underground Man worked brilliantly in there. Lots of new things have been tried out at the Neville, which have gone on to tour and have a life elsewhere, or given, as Adam just said, writers that step up so they can move towards the next, towards a bigger stage. So that's really been a big advance over the last 5 years at the Playhouse. And long may that the new writing continue to flourish here as well.
Well said. A fine example of that in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for David Belbin and Adam as well. Adam will be back in a while. And just to remind you, Holes that we were talking about a wee while ago, Saturday, 31st of March next year, through to Sunday, April the 22nd. Now an example of new and local commissions here at the Playhouse. Would you please welcome on stage Mufaro Makubika and also Karl Collins. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
It's Shebeen we're going to talk about. Mufaro, if I start with you, what's the story?
What's the story? Okay, Shebeen is a place set in 1958 in August in St. Anne's, Nottingham. And it follows the fortunes of an immigrant couple from Jamaica, Pearl and George. George will be played by Karl here, who run an illegal bar in their home. And as the party is happening, there's an act of violence that changes their lives, the fortunes of the community and their future, I guess. Is that a way to describe it?
It's a very concise way of describing it, yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
And there's some jokes in it as well.
Yeah, it's funny.
You mentioned it's set in St Anne's. You live there, don't you?
I live in St. Anne's, Nottingham, yes, I do.
Ideal for research.
Yes, it's convenient, isn't it? Yeah. I live in St. Anne's. I love St. Anne's. This is my home. These are my neighbors. And I wanted to tell the story of those people on the margins, maybe if you'd say that, or those people you rarely see their stories told on stage. And I found this story and this story of a Shebeen and these characters in 1958 in August. Obviously, that's the time of the riots in St. Anne's. So the story encompasses all that. So it's really about a particular community at a particular time in a particular place. And that's the story I really wanted to tell, and I'm glad I get the chance to do that.
Yeah, so are we.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, Karl is starring in your production. Nottingham's your hometown, isn't it? I know you've moved around, but you're a Nottingham lad?
A Nottingham born and bred, yeah. I moved away many years ago, but my mum's still here. I've got brothers still here. A lot of family still in the city, yeah. But this will mark my debut at the Playhouse. It's taken me 30 years to get on the stage. So I'm really excited about that. I'm really looking forward to doing this piece specifically, I suppose, because both of my parents are from Jamaica, and I think my mom and dad came here around 63, 64. So it's a story that resonates very definitely with their generation. And obviously, a lot of people in Nottingham at that time will remember those, the events of August 58, which was somewhat overshadowed, I think, by the uprisings in Notting Hill a couple of days later. I'd be right in saying that, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, in essence, the riots would have started here, and transferred,
And for me, getting the opportunity to do this piece, I suppose, was really important because obviously my parents come from that generation and that place. So it was nice to be asked to do it, and I'm glad I've been able to, get a window in my diary, as it were.
Yeah, well, you're a busy lad, aren't you? Hollyoaks at the moment. And
Yeah. Don't tell the wife I'm here.
Okay, it's all right. Secret's safe. Just on that business of you having family in Nottingham, what do you think that's going to be like? I often wonder this, if you've got relatives who all of a sudden rock up and you might just spot them out of the corner of your eye up there in L1 or wherever. Does that
They'll
add
definitely
more?
be up there.
Oh yeah, sorry, up there.
Down here. Yeah.
Apologies. Does that add more pressure though?
Well, as I say, it's the first time I've played the Playhouse, but when I've done theatre wherever I've been touring or in London where I'm based, and my mum comes to see it or my aunt comes to see it, my mum always says, yes, it was very good. Why can't they come to Nottingham and do this play? I'm like, it doesn't really work like that. Yeah, I'd love to. So she'll be pleased that she only has to get a bus into town, I think. And a tram now, in fact. Yes, she can get a tram all the way.
Absolutely. Oh, we've got all the mod cons here now.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I think you did a reading of the script. Is that right? Just last month. How did that go? How's it shaping up?
It was great because I'd only seen the script just a couple of weeks before we actually did the reading, and that was my first introduction to it. I didn't know much about it. I read it. It really sang to me, which was which is always really brilliant when you get a script and you can really feel it coming alive as you read it, and then to actually see it read around a table with lots of other actors was even more brilliant, because I could really, imagine it in place. So I'm dead pleased, dead chuffed, as they might say.
I'm the happy one. I'm so glad we signed on. And he's going to be brilliant in it.
And what's that moment like for you? Because you've spent months, years crafting this. So then to start to see it come to life with the actors around the table, before it even gets onto the stage, what's that like for you?
It's a privilege. It's an honor. I never take anything for granted. I'm a writer. I'm nothing more. All I want is to get my work on. And so if that moment sort of comes up and happens, it's just a thrill. It's an honor, and I'm very, very happy.
Give us a big sell, Mufaro. I'm gonna let you give us the big sell for Shebeen.
Shebeen, it's not what you expect it to be, I guess, but it's a great play, I think. I mean,
you're allowed to play your own trumpet.
Say that.
Come on.
Shebeen is a story that's very close to my heart, that I've worked very hard on, and a lot of other people are working very hard on, and we hope to tell you a fantastic story, a story that will challenge you as well, hopefully, and yeah.
Can I say something? I think it's a small domestic story, but with a big overarching theme, which I think is amazingly funny in turns, and then really tight and sad. And I think it's I don't think it's should be directed at any one demographic. I think it's a universal story. So I think it's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is a universal story. But I guess the thing is, as well, for sort of a universal theme to work, if you put it in a specific place, a specific time, with a specific people, you are allowed to sort of explore the themes of society in 1958 in this country, and in our society in St. Anne's, in Nottingham. Yeah.
Well said.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Please, round of applause. Karl Collins, Mufaro Makubika. Okay, now I mentioned there, Karl, you can see him on telly at the moment. You may have seen him in The Bill previously, starring in Hollyoaks. We do have a rather big name from the world of television and film who will be on stage in the next 15 minutes or so. He says, just teasing again. In the meantime, would you please welcome back Fiona Buffini. Now then, Stephanie, right at the top, was talking about the fact that 2018 is a significant anniversary for the Playhouse, but also it's a very significant anniversary. It's the 80th anniversary of Kindertransport, isn't it? So just tell us a little bit about what's happening there.
As I'm sure you may know, Kindertransport involved young Jewish children from Europe who were brought to the UK as refugees without their parents and settled here before the Second World War kicked off. And Kindertransport, the play, is the story of one of those little girls, Eva, who comes to stay with a lady called Lil in Manchester. And I think the thing that's really interesting, the times we're living in now, we have so many refugees in the world, and that number is jumping. I think it jumped in the last few years by 10 million in 1 year. People escaping persecution and living in fear of their lives. And I think it's a really interesting story, the story of Eva, because it tells the story of refugees, not from the outside as how are we going to deal with this problem, but from the inside. And it doesn't begin the story doesn't end with her being settled in the UK. That's where the story begins. What happens to her then? How hard is it to live in another culture? What is your relationship then with your homeland? What is your relationship with your parents? And it's about that really. It tells the story of a little refugee girl from the inside. And we see her, there are two Evas in the play. She starts the play as Eva, and then we meet her much older where she is Evelyn, and an English woman who has a very complicated relationship with her past. So we see her move through time as well.
So as you can see, that's Eva there.
Yes.
On screen. This production, by the way, is Friday the 5th to Saturday 20th of October next year. What attracted you to, because you're directing this play, aren't you?
Yes.
What attracted you to it?
I think it's a really good story. This autumn, in a couple of weeks, All My Sons is on stage, which I'm directing, and that's very much about fathers and sons. This play is about mothers and daughters, really. And it's a largely female cast, which is great. So I'm really looking forward to working with a load of actresses. And it's a really beautiful story. Again, not what you would expect. And I think this is something that theatre does really, really well. It allows you to enter into the experience of other people completely. We all sit together in the dark, and just for 2 hours we're inside their lives. And I think that's why Kindertransport is so unique. It allows us into the experience of somebody over 40 years.
So aside from Kindertransport, I know there are lots of other projects. There always are here. Tell us about Being Old. What is that project all about?
That's a project that I'm working on next year, and it's part of the participation programme. Being Old. When I was actually 10 years younger than I am now, my nephew Jack said to me, "Fifi, what's it like being old?" And that's what this is about. This is going to be a film. The same sort of idea as Mas Bolero. It will involve real people from Nottingham. And the central question that the film will be answering is, what's it like being old? But I won't be asking that question. We'll be asking old people that question, like people 70s and 80s kind of old, not me kind of old.
You're 28.
Isn't it? So I won't be asking the older people, what's it like being old? We're going to get some very young people to ask that question. So we'll have 5 and 6-year-olds talking to 70 and 80-year-olds asking that question, what's it like being old? And I think when little young people ask questions, we answer them in such a different way. They're just so curious and unjudgmental, I think, that what I'm expecting from the interviews is just some really interesting and honest responses. And that's the first part. What's going to happen then with all the interviews is that they become the soundtrack to the film, and the little young people dress up as the old people and play the part. So older people do spend a lot of time, for example, sitting down, and younger people find that so hard. It's so difficult not to wriggle around and move about. So actually, if you have a little person dressed up as an old person, the film also becomes about being very young as well. So it's a really beautiful intergenerational film.
That sounds great. What about a few of the projects? We'll run through 2 or 3 of these. People in this room may well be aware of Shine, but just in case they're not, I know this is something that's continuing, isn't it? So
yes, it is, continuing and expanding. Shine is our community youth theatre programme. We run youth theatres at Nottingham Playhouse that people come here and can participate in. But we're very, very keen that we're offering the same opportunities to young people all over the city who may not be able to pay to attend and who may not want to come here. So we've got 7 community youth theatres in all areas of the city. And we've also got one at QMC Hospital as well, which not many people know about, which is really beautiful. We're working with very, very sick children as well. And that programme will be expanding. That's one of the things we're doing.
Okay, so that's Shine. Homegrown as well, what's that?
Yes. Our youth theatres at the moment stop when you're 16, which is a great shame, I think. So Homegrown, starting in January 2018, is a programme for young artists of all kinds, actually, not just actors, to come to the Playhouse and work with us and develop themselves as artists.
And one final project for now. It feels like we're looking ahead a long time, but it'll be here before we know it. February half term.
Yes, Family Fest, a series of activities for young people and their older people.
Okay, intriguing. Is that all you're saying on that?
Well, yes, it'll all be in the brochures. There's a series of workshops and activities that people can get involved in over February half term.
Okie doke. Right, I'm going to bring you some company out now. You'll have seen him here on stage a few times already this evening. Please welcome back Adam Penford. Okay, so we've been talking about Shine and Homegrown and February half term. Tell us a little bit about Amplify, if you would.
Yeah. So since I was appointed last year, I've been having conversations with local artists. And there's a huge amount of talent within the region, as we know. So local artists, I mean writers, actors, designers, theatre makers of all shapes and sizes. And I think what we acknowledge at Nottingham Playhouse is that we have a responsibility and actually a desire to provide opportunities for local artists to work with them, to become a hub where they can share ideas and challenge one another and grow collectively. So we've put all that into a new programme which we're calling Amplify, which is our artist development programme. And I'm particularly excited we've created a brand new post, Artist Development Coordinator, because what we've got planned is a really ambitious range of activities, isn't it, that will come under the Amplify banner.
Okay. Now, Fiona, in terms of how people get involved, how can artists do that?
There are various pathways, and they're all clear and transparent. We've always done a lot of work with emerging artists, but I think for a lot of artists, how they get involved with the Playhouse hasn't always been very clear. So we will be appointing up to 4 associate artists from January 2018 onwards, and they can be companies or individuals. We will be opening ideas submissions windows, which means if you have an idea, not just a script, but a really good idea, you can submit that idea to us and we will consider it. We will give you feedback, and if the idea takes our fancy, we will help the artists involved to develop it through our AMP nights to start with, which are scratch nights essentially. It gives local artists a chance to try out material in front of, we hope, a supportive audience, and take it from there really.
Okay. You got some general auditions in October, is that right? Tell us about those.
Yeah, so I've always been aware and have met a lot of actors who either were born and raised in Nottingham but maybe have now moved away, or those who currently reside here. And I know a lot of those. As a freelance theatre director, I've employed them and worked with them. But I was aware there's probably loads that I've not had the opportunity to meet yet. So I came up with the idea that we would hold general auditions. We're going to do 2 days in London in October and 2 days in Nottingham. It's for professional actors, those over 18. Professional being that they train professionally or have a professional credit. It's not one of those turn up and queue around the block in a chorus line style fashion. We need people to apply, and they'll be given a slot, and details of how to apply will be on the website. And I'm going to be on the panel. Fiona's going to be on the panel. We're also teaming up with Jack McNamara, who is Artistic Director of local theatre company New Perspectives. They'll be joining us. And a casting director, Vicky Richardson, who casts around the UK. So for those actors, they'll get to meet 4 potential employers on one go. So I'm looking forward to meeting the talent.
Yeah, sounds exciting. If you or someone in your family, a friend of yours, would be interested in that, all the details will be on the Artist Development website for more information. Now, shall we move on to another production? Now, this is Lava, and Fiona, this is your thing. Tell us a bit about Lava. First, it's a bit of a coup, really, isn't it?
Yeah, Lava is a new play by James Fritz, and it's another co-production with Fifth Word, who we've partnered on Rec, which is currently in the Neville Studio. They're a really fantastic company, Fifth Word, that produce really, really interesting new writing. And Adam can tell you a little bit about the writer and the play.
Yeah, James Fritz is a really exciting writer. He had a lot of success in London recently with a play called 4 Minutes, 12 Seconds. So we're really excited to get him into the studio. The play... I don't want to give too much away about the play, but it basically explores survival and grief and relationships and empathy, the amount that we as people empathize with one another. It's really exciting. When we read it, it just became apparent that it was something that we wanted to work with Fifth World on staging, and it needed to premiere here.
Why choose this project, Fiona?
It's a really, again, you always ask me why, and I'll always say the same thing. It's a really, really good play.
Do you know, it's a bit like being at home. I've told you this before, because it's really good. But what's so good about it? Go on, give us a... What's the big sell for Lava?
It's the themes, isn't it?
Yes.
Grief and survival. But it's hard-hitting. His writing is stripped back. Would you say? That's what I liked about it when I first read it. Yeah, and it's, you know, it reflects contemporary society.
Yes, and if it sounds a bit heavy, it's not. It's also very funny.
Yes, it's
very, very witty.
Okay, Lava. We'll tell you exactly when it's going to be on as soon as we can, but we're looking at spring 2018 for that one. Fiona, I'm going to let you go.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. Round of applause for Fiona Buffini. Okay, now I did promise you a big name from the world of TV and indeed film, and you will meet him in just a few moments' time. But a musical interlude coming up. We started this evening, hope you enjoyed it, I'm sure you did, with a fantastic musical performance, and fans of musical theatre probably recognised the song. So, Adam, there are rumours that the Playhouse is producing its first musical for quite a few years.
Yeah, we are. So we've had musical theatre here. We had an amazing production of Tommy last year. Rent was here last year. We know the audiences love and enjoy them. But it's been a while since Nottingham Playhouse has produced its own musical. So next year we're going to be doing the Broadway classic Sweet Charity, which I'm really excited about. It's one of my favourite musicals. For those who don't know, it's about Charity, who's down on her luck taxi dancer in New York in the 1960s. What I've always loved about it is it's a strong female protagonist who's not willing to compromise on her ambitions in life in what is a morally dubious world. But aside from that, it's got a great score. Songs like Hey Big Spender, Rhythm of Life, amazing choreography. It's been directed by Bill Buckhurst, who hasn't worked here before. He's got a production of Stephen Sondheim's Sweeney Todd that was in London recently and is now currently playing in New York and keeps getting extended and extended. He'll be joined by the choreographer Alistair David, who's been doing amazing work over at Sheffield Crucible on their Christmas musicals for several years, as well as amazing work nationally. We've cast out Oscar, the male lead, which is Mark Elliott, who a lot of people will know from his work on EastEnders and more recently Holby City. He's done a huge amount of musical theatre as well. That's where I know him from. We'll be announcing Charity another time, not tonight. That's going to be a reveal at a later point. But But I think now we're going to invite Evie and Tom back, aren't we, to do a bit more, another song. If you guys want to come on, Evelyn. I'm going to switch to this place so I don't block your view. These guys have come up from London to perform to us today. You've just got back from doing Mrs. Henderson Presents, haven't you, in Canada, the musical, which is exciting. Tom, you've just got back from Safari, I think. But you've been on a safari, which is not related to theatre. Yes. So we're going to have another song from next year's musical, Sweet Charity.
Where am I going and what will I find? What's in this grab bag that I call my mind? What am I doing alone on the shelf? Ain't it a shame? No one's to blame but myself. Which way is clear when you've lost your way year after year? Do I keep falling in love for just the kick of it, staggering through the thin and thick of it, hating each old and tired trick of it? Know what I am, I'm good and sick of it. Where am I going? Why do I care? Run to the Bronx or Washington Square. No matter where I run, I meet myself there looking inside me. What do I see? Anger and hope and doubt. What am I all about and where am I going? You tell me. Run to the Bronx or Washington Square. No matter where I run, I meet myself there looking inside me. What do I see? Anger and hope and doubt. What am I all about and where am I going? You tell me. The minute you walked in the joint, I could see you were a man of distinction, a real big spender, good looking, so refined. Say, wouldn't you like to know what's going on in my mind? So let me get right to the point. I don't pop my cork for every guy I see. Hey, big spender! Spend a little time with me. Wouldn't you like to have fun, fun, fun? How's about a few laughs, laughs? I could show you a good time. Let me show you a good time. So let me get right to the point. I don't pop my cork for every guy I see. Hey, big spender, spend a little time with me. Spend a little time with me. Spend a little time with me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, big round of applause, if you would. Tom Atwood, Evelyn Hoskins. Brilliant. Sweet Charity, then, as you see, is here at the Playhouse Friday the 31st of August through to Saturday, September the 22nd, 2018. Okay, we have one more production to tell you about. This is huge news, actually, not least for the casting. It's The Madness of George III, and to tell you more about this, Adam is still on stage, as you can see, but also I'm delighted to welcome onto stage at the Playhouse this evening an actor you will be familiar with. Doctor Who, Sherlock, League of Gentlemen, Game of Thrones, that's to name just a few. Please welcome Mark Gatiss.
Thank you. Hello.
So Mark has hot-footed it from Manchester, is that right?
From Royston Vasey, in fact.
Hey! Oh, no, that sort of answers the next question. So what have you been doing there?
Well, we're doing 3 League of Gentlemen anniversary specials. It's 20 years, amazingly, since we won the Perrier Award. So we're doing 3 specials for Christmas, hopefully. We start shooting on Wednesday. So we started rehearsals today. It's absolutely bizarre, sort of time travel.
Yeah.
We've taken the precaution of growing older in order to help the production. It's great fun. It's just very odd.
Yeah. I mean, the show, I mentioned there some of the shows you've been in terms of television. You're someone that obviously enjoys variety in your work.
Yes, I do, yes. I like to keep going. It's the main thing. And similarly with theatre, you know, I've had a really wonderful experiences doing plays. So this was just Adam asked me to do Sweet Charity, but I couldn't fit it in. So that was going to be tonight's big casting announcement, but I blew it. So we were doing The Boys in the Band last year, which Adam directed, and he approached me and said he was taking over Nottingham, and would I come and do George III? And I said, there's nothing I'd like to do more. So
well, yeah, I mean, bearing in mind what a busy diary you have, why was it so important then to make space for something like this?
I mean, it's actually the most far in advance I've planned anything for a very long time, but it's a fantastic play. Obviously, Alan Bennett is one of my heroes, and it's a brilliant piece of work. I wanted to work with Adam again. We'd had such a good time on Boys in the Band, and I was thrilled to come here. I mean, actually, I have, I know about it because of John Neville and the amazing lineage of it, and I was just very excited about the idea of a kind of doing a play, doing it here. And it's just an incredible part, an incredible play.
Have you been to Nottingham Playhouse before, or is this your first time?
Yes, I came for a little tour about 6 weeks ago, but I've never seen anything here, no.
Right.
It's been off my radar for some reason.
What do you make of Nottingham?
Well, I know Nottingham a bit. I've played here with the League of Gentlemen, and I used to know someone who lived in Beeston. I know Beeston quite well, oddly enough. Well, I used to.
Hey,
maybe he's
Beeston's in.
I still don't think you'd make enough of your Robin Hood connections. That's all I would say. But it's wonderful, and I think I'm just very excited about what Adam told me about his plans for the future, and I just thought it was a fantastic way to do this play, and also I just love playing kings. If anyone offers me a king of any kind, I will do it.
Yeah. What's he like to work
Dreadful.
with? Is he?
Yeah.
Is
everyone saying that? Yeah.
Every guest that's come out.
It's just a joke, but like every joke, it has a little hint of the truth about it. No, he's delightful. I mean, I worked with Adam 7 years ago at the National, when he was assisting Marianne Elliott on Season's Greetings. That's how we met, and we've kept in touch ever since. And then we did Boys in the Band last year, so it's a very happy reunion. I really can't think of anyone I'd rather do this play with, and it's a whopper. It's an epic play. It's not done very often because it's a huge play, so I think it's in very good hands with Adam. At any rate, I'm not sure about me. I know 2 lines so far. What? Those are the easy bits, aren't they? Yeah. It's mostly that, isn't it?
Yeah, that's all you have to do. Is say what occasionally.
Wandering around mad.
Reassuring to know.
Yes, it's fine, yes.
Adam, why did you choose this as your season finale?
Yeah,
I knew I wanted to end with fireworks, basically. And Madness of George III is one of my favourite plays, as Alan Bennett is one of my favourite playwrights. But as Mark touched on, it's not done very often because it's just huge. It's a big cast, it's lots of costumes, huge set, big, epic, sweeping production. So it felt like it would be a real finale. But I knew also that I didn't want to program it without knowing who was going to play George, because that's a bit like saying you're going to do Hamlet without knowing who's going to play Hamlet.
Exactly like that.
It's just like that. So that's it. Straight away, Mark came to mind, and I was just really lucky that he coveted the role, didn't you? You knew the film.
And I'm mad. That was the clincher, I think. Already mad.
Mark, you mentioned Alan Bennett. I mean, national treasure, of course.
National trinket, I think.
Well, yes. How big a fan are you of his writing?
Huge. I mean, I've bored him about it myself, but he means so much to me. I first came across him when I was a child. There was a play of his on TV called Our Winnie, and I think I only watched it initially because that was my mother's name. I think that's what, I noticed it. And it's Elizabeth Spriggs takes her mentally disabled child to a crematorium in the north on a Sunday. And I remember just watching it gobsmacked, just thinking, how does he know these things? This is like my life. This is like my Sunday afternoon. I know everyone in this. And, it's something Alan touches on all the time, which is that sense of when you read something or see something and it's like someone's reached out from the past and put their hand into yours, It's like an amazing kind of connection. He's just incredible, and his facility with character and dialogue and place, and obviously particularly for the North, being from the North myself, proper North. I'm joking. That's an amazing thing to feel that connection to. I think he's just one of the greatest, and he's so self-effacing. Never wants to hear that, but it's absolutely true. He's one of our greatest assets.
Yeah. You also mentioned
I'm surprised he hasn't been privatised, to be honest.
Politics. You mentioned about playing kings as well. So what attracted you to this particular role, George?
Well, I mean, it's funny. I studied George III for A-level history, and it was stultifyingly dull. That's what I remember about him. And George III and his ministers, I remember, that the only bit that got us all excited was when he went crackers. And we would go, oh, this is interesting. But again, what Alan's done so brilliantly is to sort of absorb that fact that he's not a sort of flashy king. His court was known for its dullness, and people had to stand in his presence until some of them actually fell over, fainting, because he was just like. But then this extraordinary thing happened, which led to this massive upheaval with the regency, and I think that the politics of the time, with Pitt and Fox, and it's really fascinating, and has it has unforced parallels to our own time. You can just sort of you read into it. Well, I mean, one of the reasons I've always been interested in kings and queens is because it's the struggle for the crown is a sort of immortal story. We have it now. It's not kings and queens anymore. It's prime ministers and presidents. But it's exactly the same. I was reading about David Davis's machinations, or Philip Hammond texting Boris Johnson. You think this is exactly this. This text is the same as someone sending a sort of sealed note to someone saying, "I'll back you for the crown." And it's got that kind of urgency to it, I think. But what I think is really brilliant about the play is how it's also a sort of domestic tragedy. I love the fact that the king and queen are so in love, and he calls her Mrs. King, and they have this very sweet and touching domestic relationship, which is kind of shattered by his illness. And but it's that wonderful central thing of like the king is the nation. If the king is ill, there's something wrong with the country, and that's what people panic about. And I think that's absolutely true now. America is very poorly at the moment.
What do you think?
We can't talk about politics now, I don't know.
Well, exactly.
As we'll all be dead by the end of the week.
Why not?
We might as well
Absolutely.
talk about it.
Yeah, let's do it before World War III. What will this audience and other audiences take in particular from this production, do you think?
Well, I hope. I mean, it's a great play. I think it's now, 20-odd years old. It's not performed very much. It would be nice if it was done more, but I think it's a tremendous piece of work. I think it shines a very interesting light on human relationships, personal relationships, and the notion of a national identity. I think it's an epic, which is always nice. You don't see very many epics, but it's an epic with a very human heart, and I think that's what I want to kind of explore in this next year.
Yeah. So this is Friday the 2nd to Saturday the 17th of November 2018. Apart from this, how full is your diary for next year? I don't know how far in advance you are working these days.
Well, bits and bobs. Actually, I'm trying to do a bit less and have a few more holidays. That's what I'd like to do. But we're doing the League, and then I'm writing really the rest of the year. And not sure. There's a few things I can't write. I'll jinx them. Right. There's probably a king in there somewhere before.
Yeah.
Maybe a prince before that.
Yeah. King and
Hamlet. I'm doing Hamlet. I'm not. Everyone's doing Hamlet. I'd like to do this. I'd like to state now that one day I would like to revive the tradition of playing Hamlet when you're 70. No one does that anymore. That's when I'll do mine.
Fabulous. Listen, thank you very much indeed, politics and all. Great to see you. Mark Gatiss, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, love. Let's see. I think I'm done as well. I'm done, aren't I?
And give Adam a round of applause as well, if you would. Sterling job. Okay, we are almost at the end of our evening here together at Nottingham Playhouse. Before I say goodbye, please welcome back Stephanie Sir, the Chief Executive, with a few final words for you this evening.
Thanks so much, Mark. This is the bit where I do my thank yous, and they're very important to us. So really, although we can't thank everybody that's involved with the Playhouse for everything that they do, I'm just going to pick out a few organisations and people. So firstly, our sponsors. I want to thank all of our sponsors for their generous donations to Nottingham Playhouse. We work in partnership with so many of you. It's hugely enjoyable for us, actually. And I just wanted to mention three in particular. And those are Russell Scanlon, who've been sponsoring Nottingham Playhouse for 15 years, which we think is incredible. So thank you very much to them. Nottingham Trent University, we're working in partnership with Nottingham Trent now to create schemes to ensure that the future workforce of the creative industries is as diverse as it can possibly be. So we have really great plans, and we're really thrilled to be working with NTU, which has recently voted Best Modern University, I believe. So congratulations to them. That's an awesome achievement. So we're really looking forward to continuing that relationship. And finally, and it's hard to pick out sponsors, but our biggest sponsor is Nottingham City Transport. We work so closely with them. They're such a joy to work with. We have such fun doing pantomime with them. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you to you. And picking up on Mark Gatiss's point about how we don't make enough out of Robin Hood, guess what next year's panto is? Yay! Robin Hood and the Babes in the Wood. Only two more quick things. To thank Mark for being a fantastic host. Thank you very much indeed, sir. To ask you to please tell all your friends to join Playhouse Pass if you haven't already. And finally, our biggest and really our most important thank you is to you. It's to our audiences. Without you, we couldn't do what we're doing. We couldn't be what we are. We work in partnership with you. We work in partnership. Also, I haven't put the Arts Council. We want to thank the Arts Council of England for their massively important funding of Nottingham Playhouse, and also the City Council, who I hope are here tonight. But finally, and most importantly, to thank our audiences, because we can't do it without you. We do this for you. We want to know what you think of what we're doing. We love your feedback. We love working with you. And we really love it when you buy tickets to our shows. So thank you very much for joining us.
Just before you go, I wanted to ask you about any other little highlights through the year. You've stolen my thunder a little bit with the Robin Hood panto, but what else next year?
Do you mean what are my highlights out of what we've already announced?
Well, or can you add
couldn't
anything?
pick a favourite child, could you?
Well,
I wouldn't anyway. We have some fantastic visiting work coming, actually, Mark. We
That's
have
spring, isn't it?
Springtime in particular, we have Gecko coming, who are a brilliant physical theatre company. We have some fantastic dance companies coming up. We have Motion House, but they're not in this brochure, so I shouldn't have said that. We have a wonderful dance company coming up next month from Australia, doing a piece called Cockfight, so I'd highly recommend that. Lots of lovely comedians, people like Joe Lycett. And yeah, I'm just, in terms of the season as a whole, I'm just thrilled. I'm very happy with it. I think it looks tremendously exciting, and I can't wait to see it.
I think we're all in the same boat with that, aren't we? Good stuff. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you very much indeed. We hope you've enjoyed this evening, give you an insight into what's happening for the new season. Keep an eye on the website, of course, for the very latest casting, news, etc. Wish you a safe journey home. Thank you very much again. Good night.